I would like to welcome Home is Queer organization. It's Frida, Ariya, and Tom. I would like them to introduce themselves, maybe, for the beginning. If we can start with Frida.
Sure. My name is Frida, and I am, I'm going to say, the creative director of Home is Queer.
Yeah.
So what I do is like branding and content creation, and in real life, I just finished my BA in design management and cultures. So I'm a proud bachelor now.
I'm Ariya, and I have been kind of forming ideas and being part of that, and then eventually kind of end up finding my way to, in terms of doing research and archival work, finding archive work in relation to looking back at the past in relation to the LGBTQ+ community, and also just finding in terms of the roots that people have set before us, in terms of the community, and then also just learning a lot about that through that in terms of the struggles, and just understanding that we still have the same struggles. And that is my part, and then contributing in other ways of conversations that we have in our Saturday move to Sunday meetings.
Yeah. I am Tom Harvey. I kind of do lots of different roles. I guess I kind of founded the idea of putting together this community alongside Ariya and I first at the beginning, and then we got an amazing community team together that we have now, which is just we just kind of bring everyone together. I'm also a musician and artist and a writer and poet, I guess. Yeah. And that's me.
Can we say that all of you are kind of artists at some point?
Definitely all creative.
It's something that connects you kind of as well.
Yeah, and we live together. That's it.
Yeah,
If you gotta find a team, find a home.
Create the home.
Yeah.
I think that's also kind of how the name maybe
Home is
came
Square.
about.
Yeah.
We brainstormed that name for a long time.
But it was kind of shooting around, and then Tom came out with, how about if we called it Home Square? And we start talking about the relationship that people have with the idea of home in relation to the community. And it could be positive, some parts, and in most parts it can be also negative in relation to either, not being able to be yourself as an individual, and also in certain communities, there's still a level of homophobia and a level of prejudice in relation to the way people view you and whatnot. So we had conversations around that, and then eventually we kind of understood that asking ourselves what home is for us, and conversation around that, and then my relationship to home, I shared that with Tom and Frida, and eventually just thinking of home being not just an object or a place, but being people, and then just understanding that is the foundations of what we want to do in terms of for people to feel at home, being connected as a community, and the things that we're able to do together.
Yeah, I guess even though we live together, I guess we wanted to create something that anyone who came on their own could feel like they were at home. Whatever home means to you, I guess. I'm sure we'll get into more about that.
You just launched this project asking people what home means to them.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of responses? Tell me more about this project.
Yeah, we have. So, again, I can't remember where all of these wonderful ideas came from. Everyone has such wonderful ideas. But yeah, somebody came up with the idea of asking that question to people, just like lockdown began, and it was the perfect time for us to start Home is Queer, and that's when we really did have the advantage of living together, because we had that space to really start nurturing those ideas. The first thing that we really wanted to kind of like do was to start creating that connection. Like our main like central aim is to connect the LGBTQIA plus community through sober creative connection. And the first thing that really sprang to mind in lockdown was creating a discussion based around what does home feel like to you. And we created a submission. It could be based on poetry, it could be based on words, an image. It didn't have to be creative, it didn't have to be arty. It was a way to get people engaged with each other and to start a conversation, because like Ariya said, home is not always a positive place, especially for a lot of queer people. It really is not. Some people don't have a place they feel like is home. Home is more of a feeling. And we've had, how many submissions have we had?
I mean, I think
keeps going.
Yeah, it keeps coming. And I think what was also meant a lot to us while doing this was just feeling the weight that was behind each response. So I remember we were saying like how many, but then I think over time I just came to like really think about like each of them, how much thought that was put into, whether it was video or even a song or text, or I think it was, now we have about 10, 15, something like that. People who just really shared like intimate experiences from their own lives, and I thought that was very brave for people to do.
Yeah, it was also beautiful, like the images. Like there was a picture that of these three people that are in a relationship, and it's just an image of their feet, and I kind of thought it was just like the things that people chose to share about themselves in terms of like what it feels like for them, what home feels like for them. It just differed everyone the way they expressed that, and I think that was really beautiful.
What I'm trying to do is just give that microphone to anyone who wants to share. And we were talking about actually that wonderful, it's like a video of what's her name, Sylvia, that like legendary trans queen. She walks up in this LGBT rally in New York City, and like she takes the mics and she's like I've gone to jail for you, I've like fought for you, and you treat me this way, and we were talking about this also in light of like how trans rights over like just recent weeks have been really under attack, and kind of like came full circle for me, this like idea of giving a microphone to someone who had something important to say.
I think it's like it's worked out in a way that all of these submissions are very introspective, yet the concept of having so much introspection in a community creates immediately a sense of connectivity, and that is the primary aim, and at least like the vision for me that I had from the beginning was for people to feel like they have somewhere to belong, even when you don't. And yeah.
There was also like prior to like us having that conversation ourselves and expressing what home felt like for us. Within that conversation, there's some people that also like kind of highlighted the economical side of things. Like so, in relation to migration, and people come and flee their home country for different reasons, but in places where people feel that they have no rights, they have no civil rights, and that their life is under threat, like kind of having conversations around that. In relation to migration, like there are people that don't have a physical place, and the conversation that we had was, how do we make sure that we're not excluding anyone from our community, and in the way that we articulate, or the way that we try to collectively share our experiences with each other, but how do we do that in such a way that you're not excluding someone who's not creative, or you're not excluding someone who doesn't have a home. And then alongside that also, there was stories coming out of like people that from the community who in their being locked down and being locked down in with a level of facing hostility within their homes, to the point where there were mutual aid groups that and other was it refuge? What was the charity? The experience of lockdown and for different people was like based on level of comfort and based on security. Everyone was going through different situations, but more so this was quite like apparent in the same way that in the whole lockdown, the whole racism aspect of that was happening also was apparent, and people had nowhere to go but to kind of like reflect on it and kind of engage with it. Ourselves also being allies and being part of the community, just reflecting on it and kind of asking ourselves, how do we reach out to people so that they don't feel alone? And that was the intent behind this, to kind of start creating the community even before we have space, a physical space, to be able to reach out people. And a lot of like difficult conversations around that to try and do the right thing and not take agency away from people. That has been also part of the conversation in the way we do things, to the point we also have created for ourselves like our own shared values in order to try to adhere to it and hold ourselves accountable in trying to do something for our community.
So you kind of creating safe spaces for people. I was researching these safe spaces.
Yeah.
People have been trying to actually open these or establish these safe spaces for queer and LGBTQ communities. I was wondering, there has been quite a lot of people starting it.
Yeah.
They at some point stopped doing it, and the number of these communities or these organizations is not rising, is not growing. It just stops, and then the other ones start again. What do you think? Why is it? Why do they reach to this? You know, the life of the organization at some of those points where they can't go on.
So I could give you like something that I know about, like in terms of people that try to create safe spaces as a collective. So there's like Resistance, for example. They created an old like non-binary and like feminist collective DJs and focusing and like training each other, and they were able to hire spaces, and in doing so they eventually also implemented everyone that was coming to that space. They knew that it was a safe space, but in order to implement that, it kind of takes a community. It doesn't take just saying that it is a safe space doesn't make it safe. What makes it safe is a culture, and what makes it safe is also the people that are there. If they see something happening, someone being abused or someone being harassed, them actively standing with that person makes it a difference. I could give you an example of like, we went to a night for Resistance, and there were these guys that came and they had no idea what the space in terms of the culture that people were trying to create and the space that people were trying to create for each other being a safe space. And immediately their engagement and their approach to individuals that was in that space was quite violent and aggressive. The music stopped. The mic, the person that was on the mic make an announcement. Everyone that was standing there, all of a sudden there was a mass number of people surrounding them, and they had to leave the space. So as a community, like even within society, like we could make a safe space for ourselves. Like for example, in relation to police profiling, if people that are passing by and kind of going about their day, if they stopped and challenged police officers in relation to the law, in relation to rights that individuals have, and in certain cases that they stop minors, and for a minor to be stopped without a guardian and not having a guardian there to stand with them and so on, especially like young black male kids, and to be perceived like as adults and so on. So imagine like to create that safe space for people within our society if we stood with them. People that have privilege and people that necessarily have the security and wouldn't be afraid of the police threatening them with all whatever arrest or whatever, and not being afraid of being deported or like the visa being affected or whatever. Like if as individuals, if we actively made that effort as a society, we could have a safe space. In the same way that there's a difference between 10 people standing with someone and one person standing with someone. If 10 people stood with every time there was either, even like if there was a person being harassed on the road and there was 5 of you walking down the road to stand with that person, it doesn't take much. So safe space is not like, the idea itself is what we do, what our action and how we stand with people, for them not to feel that to be afraid, and for them not to feel that they are alone. And that is the potential of what a safe space can be. But the idea in itself doesn't make it safe. You still would find people going into those spaces and not respecting boundaries of individual boundaries.
I also think on the other side of that, there are lots of wonderful organisations and people trying to create that physical space. Like one that I would point out is like the London LGBTQIA+ community centre, which I volunteered as part of before, and like they're doing an amazing job at trying to find and nurture a physical space in London. But it's extremely difficult to go through that entire process. It takes a long, long time to like get it registered as a charity and like do all of these like legislation parts of like the process. And in that sense, it's hard to really push through and be able to make that a reality. And quite often you'll find that a lot of places in London, they are on your side. Lots of people are on your side, but like in terms of like government beliefs perhaps and like space, it's hard to get a lot of people on your side and to get funding, to get support whilst also working a job, or like it's difficult. And that's why I guess with Home is Queer, it's really, really amazing that we get to start this process with you and like this space and the spaces that you are nurturing and developing, because it means that we have the space to try and make what we envision, and to create this safe space and create this community.
The other thing, just to go back to why you think it's not as effective, I think like there's a lot of spaces, like especially like queer spaces, there's quick culture of safe space, and if you go into the toilets, that you see a leaflet saying like, hey, if you need help, whatever, and it gives a lot of information. But it's also, I guess, like if there was an incident, if people did a follow-up with the person to just check on them, like in terms of that also being an aspect of it. But the reality is also, as an organization or as a space, they also don't have the resources necessarily to kind of be like, okay, yeah, this happened, let's follow through with this person and check on them. But the difference is like when something's not just a business and it's about community and you frame it around community, you are able to do that, like to kind of create a space for people where they don't have to face that alone.
Yeah, and I think as well, it was kind of a nice way for us to kind of to start the space online, and like, and that's also kind of why we put it out there to see what the community needed. And I think also for me personally as an ally, it's now more than ever, like it's important to make sure that people who are in a position of privilege, who are perhaps looking from the outside in and thinking, what can I do, or like how do I fit in the grand scheme of things? I'm not racist, or I'm not whatever that is, but you are not until you are actively doing something towards it. And I think that's also something that we've had so many conversations about, like how do all kinds of people fit into this? What is the role of people to educate and to be able to ask questions when they're unsure, but also not putting pressure on someone to be the educator, which is often the case. And I think now that everything's opening up a bit, I'm really excited to kind of meet the people that's only been online. To get out into these spaces and actually have these conversations one to one and kind of seeing that process happen in real life rather than kind of nurturing it online. Really. I think we're all pretty excited about that.
So what are the next steps then? What are you going to do?
So yeah, I guess the plan is to exhibit the submissions, provide a space, and perhaps we'll tie that in with like an official launch for kind of what it is that we're doing. And then yeah, the idea is to just really find ways to create that solar connection, like away from those models of escapism and dealing with the world in ways that aren't actually taking it in instead of confronting it, just running away, which is what I spent so much of my young years doing. And yeah, I think that was the main reason for me that I really wanted to set up something like this, was because I want to stop the people that or the person that I used to be. I want to stop them before it gets to a place where it's not pleasant and they can stay in good mental health and they can feel safe.
And then beyond that, there's like a huge list, possibly in our heads, of like workshops that, because there was a period that we went through of like pitching ideas of what kind of events and what kind of things that can we create for it to be nurturing and at the same time to be entertaining
together, and us just being a platform for them to push their idea and we'll just help them do it. Obviously not like, well, maybe sometimes big ideas, but normally just kind of like Rachel's been doing like videos about like your rights, knowing your rights in like a rent situation or like a protest or just like, and then we've got like Ariya doing stuff to do with like films, and so yeah.
And then also it's been amazing. It has so much potential in relation to anyone that becomes part of that space, what they contribute and the potential, what as a community of what we can do, whether it's collaborating and standing with other communities that are marginalized, or whether it's highlighting other issues that are as equally important in our society for us to change things and to make sure that the civil rights of individuals are not being taken away, and their human rights. So in relation to that, we are starting to see the potential of the many collaboration that we have as a community and the many things that we bring to that community of being home square for us, like working together, like what we've been able to bring as ideas of like, and then the other thing also timely responding as things happen. Like the whole BLM movement as it was happening, people were timely having conversations. Personally, I was having conversations with Tom on an individual level about the issues and whatnot. So the potential of being a community is just down to what people bring to it. space where people don't feel alone, a space where if people came there, that they can be free and be themselves and express themselves within the bounds of not hurting anyone else. Yeah.
You're enforcing them. That's amazing. Enforcing them as a community.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
it's everyone.
It's not the.
Yeah,
not the right word.
I think it's everyone's responsibility. Like,
yeah, of course.
what kind of community we create is down to us, and it's down to anyone that joins that space and is part of that space. We all have a responsibility towards one another, and that's also something that happened while we were doing the work, to start taking care of ourselves and having conversations of ways that we can support each other doing the work of community. In the same way, anyone that becomes part of it, they also have a responsibility to whatever they contribute, being part of it, and within capacity also. That's something else that, in relation to mental health, in relation to disability, whatever capacity everyone is at, we have to meet people, create something for our community, but more so to carry that weight together. That's the objective.
In my eyes, I really see it as like, I want us to create workshops or create events where somebody could go on their own and just walk into this place, even like if it's something that they engage with, something that they don't, but they can sit down and they can just feel like they're not on their own, and they can feel like they're having a really hard time on an evening, or they feel super just isolated, or they feel like they don't know where they fit in a space, or even like sometimes like you can have so many friends yet feel completely alone amongst people. And I think in my eyes, I just really want it to feel like a space where you can go and everyone there just knows that it is a space to lift people up and to connect them together, and that is why you're there. And that's kind of what I want to see build. I'm pretty sure that's what all of us want to see build. We want it to just be a place where we lift each other up, because there's just so much. It's just a lot of, I think, sadness in the queer community, and we shield a lot of our sadness by taking those drugs or going out, which obviously there's nothing wrong with if you can do it in a constructive way, like moderate. Heaven forbid. But like, I think just that's really like my personal.
You had mentioned that sober community. Do you have anything else to?
Yeah. I think the sober connection part for me is just like, it can be very easy to take an event or an idea, and then when you take it into a context that isn't sober as such, I guess you don't want to put too many bounds on it or make it feel too clinical or too in that way. But I guess, I think it's important sometimes to strip those layers back and just see something for what it is, without any glaze and to try and just create a space where you can push those emotions to the forefront and feel championed and supported. And I think it will be really, really amazing to see how we can do that in art or music or words or just talking. Just laughing, talking, and being human beings without anything else.
How are you going to connect with people? Is it just going to be social media? Is it going to be, I don't know, what platforms do you have right now in the middle of some, maybe,
we don't have a TikTok yet, but
okay.
Oh God.
We got dreams.
Dream big. I think up until now it's kind of been a combination of social media outreach, but also network. And I think what's nice about being here in Hackney is that it is really centered around queer individuals who are really creating a lot of beautiful things, and I think like reaching out into that, and someone knows someone, and hopefully what's going to happen with these events, that it's going to snowball, and either people bring someone along, or as Tom would say, like you to see it wherever online, and hopefully we'll do some actual posters and things out in the street, so that it will be inviting to whoever wants to be part of the space in a constructive way.
In terms of like the spaces that, so as like having allies, like approaching Stour space was the thing that we did, like me and Tom, and conversations that we had with Kane, and having kind of been given the space to come in and do the potentially eventually to have the opportunity to do these workshops, to do events where people could come and dance and see performances, and to even do like, you know, a gathering where people would come and share food. Like the potential of what we do with the space is massive, and like, and then also to just have that space, and to have Stour, and also the old bath, having that to another space to gather is great. And then the potential of also like as a community, whatever foundation we have put down, like somewhere else, another country or another space, the template will be there. And for people, we also have a manifesto and all those like ideas. So if any other folks, other folks reach out to us and be like, hey, we're trying to do this, we'll be supporters of that, and we'll try to share as an extension of our community, try to share as much as possible. So that's another thing that me and Tom, we also talked about, like the potential of that, like other people seeing the work that we're doing. And then there's also like, which is closed as a group, but there's Misery Party, which is persons of color, and they also do sober nights, and that to kind of build bridges with our community, other individuals that are doing similar work of community work and work of caring for people, and in order to come together and do something together, that is also the potential of it, like of
building that network,
and
helping each other out. Like there can never be enough things like this, I think, in the community. And like you said, there are so little spaces just, I think, for like being queer, being sober and connecting. There really aren't very many spaces or places right now for that to exist, and I think it's just about really championing each other, and I think that's definitely something that we're looking forward to building those connections and having those talks and having events with those people to push the things that they're doing and they're supporting.
And hopefully us talking about it now as well will have someone see it and feel like they can
come talk to us about what you do or what you want to do or what you'd love to see, and let's make it a reality.
And also like online, we're on Instagram, like Home Squares on Instagram, and then also Home Squares also on Facebook.